All right, so get this. We're going deep today into a story that's got it all. Faith, fame, and you guessed it, a whole lot of money. We're diving into the world of Nigerian gospel music with a story about Mercy Chinwo.
Oh yeah, Mercy Chinwo, huge name. I bet a lot of our listeners remember her from way back in 2012 when she won Nigerian Idol.
Exactly. And since then, she's become, well, a bona fide gospel star.
Yep.
But it seems like her journey's hit a few, let's just say, unexpected notes lately.
Yeah, you could definitely say that.
We're talking a full-on legal battle with her former manager, a guy named Ezekiel Onyedikachuku, and the big issue, a massive sum of money.
$345,000 to be exact, all in unpaid music royalties that Chinwo says he, basically took.
Wow. That's a lot of money.
It is, and it kind of highlights how artists actually make a living, Every time you stream a song, go to a concert, even hear music playing in a store that generates royalties.
ASAP.
And in this case, those royalties are at the heart of some pretty serious accusations.
So serious that the Nigerian Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is involved. We're talking the EFCC here. This isn't just a disagreement between two people anymore.
No, not at all. When the EFCC gets involved, you know it's serious. They're basically Nigeria's financial police, going after things like fraud and money laundering.
So we're talking big-time allegations. But let's back up for a sec. How do we even get to $345,000?
Yeah.
Where would that money have come from originally?
It's not just from one place. Think about it. These days, people listen to music everywhere. Spotify, Apple Music, live shows, you name it.
Yeah.
All of those generate royalties, which should go back to the artist. It all adds up.
Gotcha. So this whole thing isn't exactly new, is it? This dispute goes back to September 2022 when Chinwo decided to leave Onyedikachukwu's record label, Eezee Concepts. Even back then, there were whispers about money problems.
Leaving a successful label mid-career, you don't do that unless something's seriously wrong. It sounds like those financial concerns were a major factor.
Makes you wonder what went down behind the scenes to get to this point. Now it's all coming to a head, right? Onyedikachukwu has an arraignment scheduled for January 24th of next year.
That's right, 2024. That's when things really get moving, legally speaking.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't lawyers, what does arraignment even mean? What actually happens on that day?
Well, it's basically the official start of the court case. Onyedikachukwu will hear the charges against him, and then he'll have to enter a plea.
Pleading guilty or not guilty.
Exactly. If he pleads not guilty, then that sets the stage for a full-blown trial. But there's another wrinkle here. A warrant's already been issued for Onyedikachukwu's arrest because he hasn't exactly been cooperating with the authorities.
Adding a little more drama to the mix, huh? So what does that warrant actually mean?
Well, it means they can arrest him and bring him to court, even if he tries to avoid it.
Wow. Sounds like they really want to make sure he shows up.
Definitely. The stakes are high. This whole thing goes way beyond just money. We're talking about power dynamics between artists and managers, especially in a genre like gospel music. Public image, trust, it's all tied together.
That's a really good point. If what Chinwo is saying is true, then it makes you think about financial transparency and accountability in the gospel music scene.
Exactly. It makes you wonder how common these kinds of situations are and, how many other artists might be dealing with similar issues but are afraid to speak up.
Yeah. Lots to unpack here. But before we go any further, let's dive into some of the specifics of this case and the evidence that's come to light.
Let's start by looking at the EFCC affidavit. What's interesting is that Chinwo actually tried to work things out with Onyedikachukwu before going to the authorities.
Oh, really? Like
Okay.
she tried to handle it privately first.
Yeah, it seems that way. The affidavit mentions she tried to settle things outside of court. It kind of shows that she wasn't immediately looking to escalate things,
Interesting.
Yeah.
It definitely makes you wonder what those conversations were like, though.
Totally. It makes it seem like there was this big breakdown in trust, in communication. It ultimately pushed her to take legal action, which, is a pretty big step.
And the timing of her leaving the label back in September 2022, that's something that keeps sticking out to me.
Yeah.
I mean, her career was really taking off at that point. Walking away from that must have been a tough choice.
Yeah, it definitely speaks to how serious her concerns were. This wasn't about some quick cash grab. This was about principles. Maybe even a sense of disillusionment with how things were being run.
It's almost like, especially as a gospel singer, you think about the message of her music. It's all about faith and integrity.
Right. And then to have these alleged financial discrepancies going on behind the scenes.
It's got to create this huge internal conflict for her. I wonder how much this whole ordeal has weighed on her, personally.
For sure. got to be tough. And this whole case is really blown up in the media, right?
It has. It's become a pretty big deal.
It's not every day you see a gospel singer caught up in this kind of financial battle. Especially for that amount of money, people are definitely paying attention, especially within the gospel music community.
It raises some big questions about the industry itself, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Transparency, accountability, especially in a genre like gospel music, where spirituality and trust are so important.
It's a good reminder that even in gospel music, the business side of things matters a lot.
Right, it can't be ignored. And this case could have a pretty huge ripple effect. Imagine if the court sides with Chinwo. It could give other artists the courage to speak up, to demand more accountability from managers and labels.
It could change the entire landscape of the Nigerian music industry, couldn't it?
Absolutely. Contracts might be looked at more closely, royalty regulations might get stricter, and just the overall awareness among artists about their rights.
This isn't just about Chinwo and Onyedikachuku anymore. It's about potential systemic change.
Exactly. It's starting some big conversations in the gospel music world and even beyond. You know, how do we make sure artists are protected, especially new artists just starting out? How can they be sure they're getting what they deserve?
It's a wake-up call for all of us, to be honest.
Yeah.
To stay informed, to know our rights, and to have those tough conversations about money up front, even with people we trust.
Yeah, communication is key, making sure everything is clear and upfront, both the creative side and the business side.
Great point. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. Aside from all the legal stuff, this situation has got to have some impact on Chinwo's career, right?
That's a really good point. We're talking about a really crucial time in her career. How does a public legal battle like this affect her image, her future in gospel music? It's a tough spot to be in.
It's definitely a lot to take in. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's quickly recap what we know so far. Then we can dive into some possible outcomes, some potential scenarios moving forward.
Okay, so just to summarize.
Okay, so just to recap really quick, we've got this incredibly talented gospel singer, Mercy Chinwo, and she's saying her old manager, Ezekiel Onyedikachuku, basically held back a huge chunk of her money. We're talking $345,000. And to make things even more serious, the Nigerian Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, is now involved.
Right. It's definitely not something to take lightly. And, you know, this whole situation really shines a light on something that happens a lot in creative fields. Like, you've got the art, the passion, in this case, the spiritual message.
Yeah.
But behind all that, you've got the reality of contracts and, well, business.
And that's where things seem to have gone wrong. It's clear that Chinwo tried to sort things out quietly before involving the authorities. She even left Onyedikachuku's record label back in September 2022.
Yeah, September 2022. That was a big move, walking away from a successful label like that. That really says something about how serious her concerns were.
It makes you think about the whole power dynamic between artists and managers, especially in a genre like gospel music, where image and trust are so important.
Absolutely. And for Chinwo, the stakes are incredibly high. Right now, it's not just about the money, it's about her reputation, her whole career.
Exactly. So with this arraignment coming up on January 24th, 2024, it's like, what's going to happen? Will Onyedikachuku even show up? Will he plead guilty, not guilty? And how will all of this play out in the public eye?
There are so many possibilities. Like, what if Chinwo's accusations are proven true? This could totally change how artist-manager relationships work, not just in gospel music, but across the whole Nigerian music scene. We could see way more transparency, stricter rules, and artists might actually start to understand their rights better.
It would be huge.
Yeah. But even if Onyedikachuku is found guilty, the damage to Chinwo's career might already be done. All this public scrutiny, the legal battles, it takes a toll.
It's a tough situation. It's like a reminder that even when you're successful in something like music, there are always challenges. You know, there are risks involved.
Definitely. And this case really highlights how important it is to be informed, to know your rights as an artist, and to be open about money matters right from the start.
Absolutely. This story goes way beyond just the headlines. It's about trust, it's about ambition, and it shows how complicated the creative industries can be.
And it leaves us with a lot to think about. How can we make sure artists are protected? How can we make these creative partnerships more transparent and accountable?
Those are really important questions. And as we wait to see what happens next in this story, we hope it gets people talking, that it leads to positive change. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep asking those tough questions. Please ensure you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you next time.